Welcome in everyone, I am PBD and we are back today with another Spooktober stream with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. And last I checked, I already finished the main house, or the main hall, where you had to deal with Jack. Now I'm in the old house with Marguerite chasing me. And I believe I'm running out of ammo. Yay. Okay, we are going to jump right in once I get my headphones on. Can't get scared without them, now can I? And we're going to bring this up on the other computer. You guys had to do this tonight, didn't you? I knew I should have put it at 150,000. I figured, they're probably really close. Okay. It's 10 pages, nothing more. Well, hold on. Let me make sure I didn't end in the middle of a sentence. Because I will just drop you in the middle of a sentence. Alright, hold on. Let me make sure. Oh, good! It's at the end of a sentence. Okay, first things first. How many of you have heard of the show Yu Yu Hakusho? The anime Yu Yu Hakusho, which is amazing. So everybody better say yes. But I mean, do you have any awareness of the characters or the basic plot? Because a lot of this sticks to that plot. Okay, good. Then you won't have to worry about me butchering it. All right, gosh. It's a good thing we weren't doing this over Discord, Bosch, because I'm pretty sure I would just hear you laughing in my ear the whole time. Oh god, bringing this thing into an actual voice. Oh. But it isn't. It's just weird bringing this in with a voice. I read it in my head. I don't read it out loud for everybody to hear. Irie lay her head down in the grass. How long had she been free now? They'd have to leave soon, she knew that. But right now it was just the two of them. Don't get your mind in the gutter. Nothing like that is happening here on the first freaking page, okay? I know exactly where your mind is going, and don't even start with me, okay? It's so quiet out here. She turned her golden eyes up toward his. Will they find us here? His crimson eyes met hers, and he gave a sigh. Yes. He rolled onto his side and stared intently at her for a long moment. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? She sat up, still staring at him. He paused, searching for the words. I interfered, and now you have to run. You and I both know what fate awaited me if I had stayed. Her face grew solemn as she briefly placed her hand on his before removing it. You gave me a chance I wouldn't have had otherwise. I can't go back. They both turned their heads suddenly at the sound of footsteps. They can't have found us already. He yanked her to her feet, and they ran. Irie's eyes snapped open suddenly, and she sat up in her bed. What a crazy dream. She rubbed her forehead as she glanced at her clock. Shit, I'm late. She jumped out of bed and started dressing in her school uniform. She'd get detention for sure if she was late again. Oh my god, I missed that letter. Sorry. She rushed out of her house with a granola bar clutch in her hands and started running to school. Irie was always a fast runner, placing first in most track events. She made it to school with 15 minutes to spare. Thankfully, she only had a year left until high school. As she approached the main gate, she saw her best friend, Yusuke, at the front gate. For those of you who are familiar with Yu Yu Hakusho, yes, this is a Yu Yu Hakusho fan fiction. You gotta eat something. It was that or toast, and I didn't want to go with toast because that's like in every single anime that involves somebody who's going to school. There's always toast. He was talking to a group of other boys, one she recognized as Kawabara. There were two strange boys with him as well. One was a handsome redhead that wore a uniform from Mayu High. I'm probably butchering that, and I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've heard it in Japanese. And the other was about her height, wearing a long black cloak. Weird outfit for spring, but okay, whatever. She approached him with a wave. Hey, Urameshi. He turned suddenly and smiled. Hey, Irie. At her name, the short one glanced at her briefly. Keeping out of trouble? Of course, she nudged him. You and Keiko up for game night? You can invite your friends if you want. More people for me to crush into the dust. She punched a fist into her opposite hand. No, I got some other plans. Maybe next time. Irie gave a pout and he laughed. Don't give me that face. Oh, hey, let me introduce you. Yeah. Oh, hey, let me introduce you. He stepped to the side. You know Kuwabara. Morning, Kuwabaka, Irie corrected with a smirk. Hey, stop calling me that. He held a fist in front of him. If you weren't a girl, I'd make you pay for that. Yeah, I'd like to see you try. You know I could take you with both arms tied behind my back. Irie crossed her arms in front of her with a wide smirk. The redhead chuckled and the short one gave a huff that sounded like a stifled laugh. Okay, down, girlie. This is Shuichi Minamino. He goes to the other school that I tried to pronounce earlier and screwed it up. That one. He nodded and shook his head. Kaito told me about you. He's in your grade, I think? You know Kaito. Shuichi seemed surprised. Yeah, my mom used to clean his family's house before she passed. He was one of her last clients that she had. Her cheeks flushed slightly. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. His green eyes reflected his words, and that sincerity made her feel uncomfortable. Not many people she'd interacted with actually meant what they said. This guy over here is Hiei. He, doesn't really talk much. He aimed his thumb behind him at the cloaked boy. Irie leaned her head sideways around Yusuke with a friendly smile. Oh, hey, my name's Irie. He stared into her golden eyes for a moment. His eyes widened for a brief second before turning away. Wow, you weren't kidding, Yusuke. The bell rang. Oh, I'm gonna head to class. See you at lunch, or are you playing hooky again? She asked as she walked backwards towards the school. I've got some other things to take care of today. I'll probably see you tomorrow. Okay, then. She gave him a wink and a playful salute as she turned and darted inside. After the girl left, the boys started walking away from school to continue their conversation. So Koenma said there's a demon at my school? Kurama answered. That's what Botan told us, and that we should meet you right away to see if you can find it. Some skeevy demon at our school? I'll find him myself and kick his ugly ass back to their world, Kuwabara stated confidently. Sorry guys, I can't do that voice, because my voice does not do that. Well, I'll head home and grab my demon compass and I'll come back. You two are going to stay here? He and Kurama nodded. Okay, Kuwabara, you're with me. We could run into this demon on the way. He nodded and they left. He had turned back toward the school. Did you feel the girl's energy? It's not human. Yes, I did, Kurama seemed stern. But she didn't seem hostile. He paused and glanced down at Hiei. Did you recognize her? No, why would you ask me such an absurd question? He scowled at the building. You reacted to her name. At his silence, Kurama continued. I'll let Botan know. He turned and left, pulling a communicator from his pocket. Hiei kept staring at the building. Irie. It can't be. She has a demonic aura, but it doesn't feel the same. He leapt to a tree nearby and closed his eyes, opening his jogon as he searched the school for her. When he found her, he looked into her mind. For those of you who aren't familiar with the show, Hiei has a third eye, pretty much, which allows him to... He, sees into people's minds, obviously. It's, the easiest way to describe it if you aren't familiar with the show. That I have to explain that before I continue in this section, because otherwise, y'all aren't going to figure out what I'm trying to say here. Hiei observed as the girl called Irie sat with her legs crossed as if meditating. Shouldn't she be focused on class? Irie suddenly turned and looked right at him. She can hear me? Yes, I can hear you and see you. She stood and faced him. How are you here? What is this? Hiei attempted to leave her mind, but couldn't. Why can't I leave? You're in my mind. You can't leave until you answer my question. How are you here? Everything around them went dark, leaving Hiei and Irie standing across each other in the void. She stepped closer to him. He reached for a sword, but the scabbard was empty. You have no weapons here. Answer me. He glared at her. Who are you? Irie seemed to become distorted for a moment and changed. She was still dressed the same, but her expression seemed completely different. Her eyes seemed to be pleading with him. His expression turned to shock for a brief moment at the way she said his name, and he was forced from her mind. He opened his eyes and he was back in the tree, blinking up at a window, only to see her staring down at him. Then he left. Oh, another thing from the show, because I also didn't realize that I made this little mistake here. You heard me say Shuichi Minamino earlier, where his name is actually Kurama, and it's this weird, complicated thing I don't want to really explain right now. So, since you guys haven't seen the show, I kind of have to set it up a little, because otherwise you'd be confused as to who this new person is, and it's not a new person. It's the same person, but going by their original name. Kurama, Shuichi, same person. Kurama waited at a park down the street for Botan to meet with him. Yusuke and Kuwabara were making their way back to school through the park until they noticed the pair. Hey, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to wait at the school. I'm waiting on Botan. She's coming here. We found the source of demonic energy, but she's odd. Wait, she? Yes, your friend, Irie. Yusuke did a double take. You think Irie's a demon? But I grew up with her. Kuwabara's jaw dropped. Irie, a demon? But she's not icky. Yes, well, that may be so, but she does have a demonic aura. She didn't seem very strong, and she didn't seem hostile or stand out in any way. Botan chose this moment to appear. So, you found the demon? Kurama filled her in on the conversation. She doesn't act like a demon. I didn't smell any fresh kill on her. Her aura is demonic, but she presents almost human, he shrugged. But we did locate her. Botan had her finger on her chin. I need to report this right now. She pulled out a suitcase with a small screen inside and turned it on. Koenma, sir, we found the demon. Good, we need to capture it now. It poses a major threat to the human world, a voice responded. Kurama chimed in. She doesn't seem very dangerous. Yeah, she's my friend, Yusuke said as he tried to cram himself in front of the screen. Yusuke, you need to place her under arrest now and send her with Botan. He tried to interrupt, but Koenma cut him off. Now, Yusuke. Then the screen went black. I guess we need to say goodbye to Airi, Kuwabara mumbled. Come on, it's Airi. She's like the sister I never had, and I'm what, just supposed to arrest her and send her to the underworld? I'm sorry, Yusuke, but Koenma says she's dangerous. We have to take her, whether you like it or not. Botan shrugged. Kurama, can you take me to her? He nodded and stood. Let's go then. They turned and walked toward the school as the lunch bell chimed. Airi headed to the roof with her lunch. Keiko was out today. She had to help her parents with something. Yusuke wasn't even at school today. She had dozed off in class, and she could have sworn that she had dreamt about the short guy. She looked around when she made it to the roof. Nobody around. Great. She set her lunch down and stretched before twirling in a circle and seating herself. She leaned back and stared up at the sky. Why did his eyes look so familiar? She smiled to herself. He kind of reminds me of a cat. She pictured the grumpy boy with cat ears and laughed for a moment. She took a bite from her lunch as she crossed her legs in front of her in a lotus position. She felt someone walk up behind her. Airi, is it? A woman's voice asked. I need you to come with me. Airi jumped to her feet and stared at a blue-haired woman in a pink kimono holding an oar. Just picture that for a second. Because again, if you haven't watched the show, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Bright blue hair and a bubblegum pink kimono. Who are you? My name is Botan. As I said, I need you to come with me. My boss believes you may be a danger to others. What are you? She started and then felt something hit her in the neck, and the world slipped away. Airi collapsed on the ground. Botan managed to slide the girl onto the oar, and she opened a small, compact-sized communicator. Koenma, I'm heading back. I have the demon. So things start getting a little weirder here. There's a lot of, mental imagery and stuff. Airi stood in a large open field alone. She was admiring the sky when a ring of orange and gold fire appeared around her. She turned in a circle as she observed the flames. When she stopped, a woman that looked just like her stood across from her just outside of the ring. God, that's horrible writing right there. Who are you? I'm you, a cool voice asked. So I'm talking to myself, she mused aloud. In a way. The woman stepped into the flames and through the flames and into the ring. I am a manifestation of your memories. Memories? Of before. What before? What the hell are you talking about? Let me in and I'll show you. She approached Airi with her hand outstretched. No, I don't know what you are. She gave an aggravated sigh. Your memories were taken from you. I'm all that's left. Don't you want to know what happened in your life before your parents found you? You had a life. You had potential. I can show you some of those memories. At least, I can show you the ones that weren't already taken. Already taken? Yes, someone feared my power, so they took my memories. I'm all that's left. If you want to know about your past, you must accept me. She held out her hand again. I can't do that. What if I shared some memories with you just to give you an idea? But we don't have much time. If we take too long, I'll be eradicated too. Airi sat down in front of her. Then share. Yusuke and Kuwabara ran toward their school only to find Kurama leaving. Where's Botan? We're going to stop her from taking Airi. You're too late. Botan just left with the girl. Yusuke and Kuwabara's eyes widened. I'm sure Koenma just wants to talk to her, figure out why she's here. She'll probably be back in the morning. I didn't get that impression, Kurama, Yusuke said gravely. If she's not back by morning, I'm going to Koenma, figure out why he has her and what he's done with her. Are you sure that's wise? Kurama replied. If he wants me as his spirit detective, yeah. He can't just accuse someone of being a demon and kidnap them when they've done nothing wrong. Yusuke clenched his fist. Kurama pursed his lips. All right. She's not back by morning, I'll go with you. But you'll miss school, Kuwabara exclaimed. I agree with you. Koenma shouldn't falsely accuse someone and kidnap an innocent girl. I need to hear his reasons just as much as you do. All right, let Hiei know. Might be better if all four of us show up. United front and all that, Yusuke stated. Kuwabara was grumbling to myself. It's all just gotta be a mistake. Hiei crouched on a tree branch nearby, listening to the conversation. When the humans left, he approached. She was taken then. Yes, I'm sure you heard the rest. He motioned after the boys. Will you come with us? Why should I? Kurama sighed and glanced down. You don't have to, but we're going with or without you. He turned to leave. I assume Yusuke just wants to show Koenma that we're working together as a team as he intended. Kurama shrugged. We're leaving at 9 a.m. Come with us or don't. He stared after him. It can't be her, can it? Oh, yeah, so the beginning of this section I put in big bold letters. The next morning. Yusuke stood outside the gates of his school waiting to see if she would show. Kuwabara showed up first. You're Meshi, you seen her yet? No, not yet, he responded darkly. What have you done, Koenma? Well, we have 15 minutes or so, then we'll head to Spirit World. I asked Botan to come and take us. Kuwabara nodded solemnly. She can't be a demon. This had better just be one heck of a misunderstanding. Another 10 minutes passed, and Kurama approached them. Has she arrived yet? He asked hopefully. No, only 5 more minutes and we're heading out. Yusuke had his arms crossed now, with one hand balled into a fist. I'm gonna kick his ass, he thought. Finally, the bell rang for classes to begin. The trio glanced up toward the school and Yusuke spoke coldly. Let's go. As they left, Botan appeared before them. You're late, Yusuke glared at her. I just wanted to make sure she had time to arrive back. She suddenly stopped speaking, her bubbly voice dying in her throat. She's not back yet, is she? The boys shook their heads at her. I was afraid of that. She paused, looking serious for a moment. I suppose you're ready to go see Koenma then. They nodded solemnly, not needed. Okay, grab on. Each of them grabbed a hold of the oar and they left. Oh, this one has another header. Spirit World. Koenma stared through the glass at the unconscious girl hooked up to the machines. You were supposed to forget. How did you start remembering? He narrowed his eyes at her as her body suddenly lurched on the table. How are you fighting this? It worked last time. His thoughts were interrupted as a woman's voice called from his office. Koenma, sir, are you here? Koenma gave a sigh. Botan. I'll be right there. He quickly left the room, closed the door behind him, and sat at his desk. What is it? Koenma, sir. Yusuke and his team are here to see you. They, have questions about the demon I brought in yesterday. He stared down hard at his desk. Tell them it was a matter of security. Send them on their way. Botan didn't move. His voice turned to exasperation. What else? No disrespect, sir. I don't think that's going to be enough of an answer for them. Yusuke is really upset. Irie was his friend. He cut her off. I don't need to explain myself to him or to you. Tell them to leave now. The doors burst open and the boys stormed in. Botan stepped back and disappeared through the open doorway. She did not want to be a part of what was coming. Okay, enough waiting. You need to answer my questions now, Yusuke demanded. I don't answer to you, Yusuke. You work for me. He was interrupted. I didn't do that very well with my voice, but you guys get the idea. That's right. I do work for you. If you want me to keep working for you, you need to answer my questions. Koenma hesitated before he gave a loud sigh. Fine. I'll answer what I'm able to. Ask. He waved his hand dismissively at the boys. And the boys took the chairs in front of him. Yusuke started. Where is she? She's here. Why did you take her? She's dangerous. She's never posed a threat to anybody. She can't be a demon. You got the wrong girl, Kuwabara interjected. Whether she's posed a threat or not, she's a dangerous demon and she cannot be allowed to roam the human realm freely. How dangerous? Kurama remained calm. Koenma pressed his lips together, thinking carefully about his answer. She has the raw energy. See, over here I go into the whole class thing. Alright, well, I'll just read it. She has the raw energy of a low S-class demon, but only exhibits the energy of a D-class. Kurama's eyes widened, but that's impossible. Well, Koenma paused. Last time she was here, we took her memories away, and we thought that solved the problem. Yusuke stood and slammed his hands on Koenma's desk. She was here before? Koenma glanced down at his desk. I shouldn't have said that. Yes, but after her memories were extracted, she became weak. She should have been as close to human as possible. She should have forgotten her abilities, forgotten her past. He paused. Her energy surged this morning. That surge was felt here in Spirit World. She's not as strong as she used to be, but she is still powerful, even if she doesn't know it. What kind of demon is she? He hesitated for a moment. I don't see why that matters. Answer Kurama's question, Yusuke demanded through grit teeth. Koenma... It is so hard to read Kurama and Koenma back to back. Koenma gave an aggravated sigh. She's a fire demon. There was a heavy silence for a few moments when suddenly Kuwabara decided to ask a question. If she's a fire demon and you're worried she's dangerous, why didn't you just have Hiei talk to her? I can't do that. Why not? Because I can't. Why not, Koenma? What difference does it make? She's dangerous. End of story. Yusuke slammed his hands down on Koenma's desk again. She's my friend. You're treating her like a goddamn prisoner. She's never done anything to anyone. She helped her mom clean houses. She's part of the dance team. She isn't dangerous. He gripped his hands onto the edge of the desk. I want to see her. Koenma opened his mouth to speak, but Yusuke cut him off. I want to see her now. Koenma gave a defeated sigh. Fine. If you're going to be such a baby about it, follow me. Again, if you haven't seen the show, you don't know this. So Koenma has two forms in the show. First form is pretty much the first time you see him, he essentially looks like a baby. Dressed like a baby, has a binky and everything. He's a baby. So that line is funny if you've watched the show. If you're going to be such a baby about it, because he's literally saying it as a baby. But in the second season of the show, he does his little transformation thing, but we'll get to that later. He stood from his desk with a loud hump, pressed a button on his desk. I said desk way too many times. And a door opened to the left. Come on. He led the way into the room with the boys on his heels. Koenma heard the boys gasp behind him as he led them to the observation room. An observation room overlooking a tiled room behind a large window. I worded that so badly. Any remaining memories will be finished extracting in a few hours. He nodded toward a large machine. Then she can go back. Yusuke stared into the tiled room. She was strapped down to a table, still in her uniform, wires hanging from either side of her face. What did you do to her? She's been placed in a medical coma until the extraction is complete. She cannot be allowed to leave with her memories of power. That's what makes her dangerous. She's powerful enough to destroy the human realm on a whim if she desired. Irie sat across from her doppelganger in the ring of fire. Her copy raised her hands up in front of her, and she placed her hands against hers. A lot of her, because she's essentially talking to herself. A man with a scar over his eye glared down at her. Bring in the next lad. A door opened and a male demon was kicked in. You're next. If you succeed, congratulations, you're worthy of this power. Have at her. The young demon approached her and she felt herself panic. As he approached, she tried to crawl away, but heavy chains were wrapped tight around her neck and arms. She scooted back as far as she could until he grabbed at her ankle and pulled her towards him. She kicked him in the gut and he grunted. As he lunged for her, she felt her power build around her. Orange and gold flames built up in a flash of light and he pulled back. Go on. Once you have her, your heir will be worthy of legends. The old man goaded him. The young demon approached her again. She felt the flames surround her as her face twisted into a sneer. Once the demon was close enough, she screamed, sending her flames to him, enveloping him in heat so intense, his skin began to crack and flake before he could even scream. He was soon reduced to a pile of ashes before her. The scarred man entered the room, stalked over to her, and backhanded her across the face. All you have to do is produce a child with your power. Stop killing them off. She glared up at him, fury etched into her face. Glare at me all you want, child. It's time you make yourself useful. He turned on his heel and left. After a few minutes, her energy seemed to fade. She hung her head and sobbed. I need to get out of here. She tried to focus her aura into her chains in an attempt to break them, but as usual, they didn't budge. And the scene was filled with darkness. Irie opened her eyes and stared across at her double. What was that? Her voice shook slightly. That was our father, our real father, before going to the human world. Human world? What other world is there? You're a demon. Technically, Irie's eyes widened in shock. A demon? Like with horns? Some may have horns, but I don't. Her gaze softened. I get it. You're scared, but this is our story. This was our past. The ring around them seemed to suddenly dim, and her voice grew urgent. Please, you must accept me before I'm taken away. What could she say? This other version of herself essentially told her that this man who was her father wanted other demons to produce a child. She had no reason to believe this copy of herself, but at the same time, she knew it was nothing but honesty. Hiei stalked through the open door to Koenma's office. No one was there. Where are they? He approached Koenma's desk while looking around. Voices faintly entered the room through the wall off to the side. As he walked closer to it, he noticed a sliver of an opening, and soft voices could be heard through it. He reached out, gently nudging the door open, and he heard, "What did you do to her?" ring out from inside. Sounded like Yusuke. He approached the opening and nudged it further, causing the door to swing inward, and the voices grew louder. He slipped inside quietly and suppressed his energy. You need to let her go, Koenma. At the very least, let Hiei talk to her. Maybe he can get some information out of her. Kurama's voice said calmly. He had glanced through the large window only to see the girl from earlier lying on a table. Out of the question. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Because. Because why? Because she's been asking for him. Everyone was silent again, and Hiei froze in the shadows. Yusuke gave a dry laugh. She asked for him, so why haven't you let him talk to her? You think I should just give any powerful demon exactly what they want? I wanted to know why, but she wouldn't answer my questions. So you took her memories? Yusuke's fist shook with anger. We need to get Hiei here. Let him talk to her. And let him talk to her. I forgot another word. I can't allow that, Yusuke, Koenma said with a warning tone. Koenma, Kurama started gently. It can't hurt to let him talk to her. Maybe they know each other. Maybe he could find out why she's here. If she's so dangerous, don't you think keeping her in this state will anger her further? He motioned toward the unconscious girl. Besides, he's already here. Koenma jumped and turned to see a pair of red eyes staring at him from the darkness. When did you come in? He moved to block Hiei's view of her. You need to leave. You sedated a demon and altered her memories? Would you do that to me or Kurama after forcing us to agree to work for you as probation? That's different. Is it? Yes, she's dangerous. I'm dangerous. He glared at Koenma. You said she asked for me. No, I heard you. He stepped to the side so she remained in his line of sight. Let me in. I can't do that. He moved to block the doorway into the sealed room. Let me in, or I will cut you down. Yusuke lunged forward, grabbing the front of Koenma's shirt. Let him in. Koenma glanced between them. If it gets out of control, I'll yank her memories. He glanced at a console off to the side, and nodded. He nodded toward Hiei while glaring at Yusuke. Go. Hiei stepped through the door and approached her. Irie and her double had covered a few more memories, various demons attempting to visit her in a captive state, her incinerating them to ash, and then her incinerating them to ash. Another memory of her even younger being told that she could never learn to fight because it would be too dangerous. There was a memory of her older but free of the chains, walking alongside someone, but when she looked forward, she could never see his face. Suddenly her double disrupted her. He came. We need to do this now. She suddenly grabbed Irie's hands. She widened her eyes and attempted to pull away. It felt as if her body was being consumed by the flames. She opened her mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Still, images passed before her eyes in rapid succession, bits and pieces from other memories, both shared and new. Hiei stopped beside her. As he reached out to free her from the wire, she suddenly gasped and sat bolt upright. He pulled his hand away, watching her. She looked around wildly, grabbing at the cables attached to her and yanking them free. Outside, Koenma had backed away from the others and approached the console. His hand hovered over the button that would cause gas to fill the chamber and knock her out, unbeknownst to the boys. The team stepped closer to the window, watching closely as they ignored the leader of Spirit World. Also, Koenma is technically leader of the Spirit World, or technically the son of the leader of Spirit World. It's kind of a pun, because King Yama would be the leader of Spirit World. So it's Ko-Emma. Get it? For those of you who don't know the show. As she freed herself from the last stubborn wire, she stared down at her hands. Her eyes were having a hard time adjusting in the harsh light. She glanced down at her body as if confused by her attire. She grabbed at the yellow ribbon hanging from the front of her shirt and yanked it off. As she tossed it aside, she suddenly became aware of a boy standing in front of her. She concentrated on focusing her eyes on the black blur. A cloak, perhaps? Her eyes traveled upward until she came to a white scarf, then further to a pair of eyes. Her mouth felt dry as she opened it to speak. Can't be. Although she didn't look the same, her expression as she met his eyes said all he needed to know. This was her. Irie, he whispered back to her. You were dead. I couldn't find you. I couldn't sense you. She reached out toward him, but stopped. Something was wrong. She glanced back at the window. Koenma, she spoke firmly, finding her voice. What have you done to me? She stood suddenly, feeling dizzy. It didn't matter. She stalked to the window, glaring out into the observation room. She could feel the flames building up from within her. You bastard. You said you would help me, and this is what you've done? Stolen my memories, denied me the one thing I asked of you? Wasn't locking me away up here for 3 years enough for you? She slammed a hand against the window and flames exploded from her body, enveloping her. Behind her, Hiei's eyes widened as he kept his back toward her and the observation room. 3 years, that's why I didn't feel her. She was here? He turned a glare toward the room itself. We got another little header, observation room, just the other side of the window. I don't know why I put a header here. It's not like it's a completely different location. It's on the other side of the window. Koenma's thoughts. Shit. Koenma's hand lingered over the button. 3 years? Are you fucking kidding me? Yusuke wheeled on Koenma. You kept her here for 3 years, let her go, then locked her back up because you're afraid of her. It's not that simple, Yusuke. You couldn't even let her see him? You were trying to protect yourself. Kurama stared in silence at Ari. Flames sprung wildly from her. You locked her away, kept her from the person she asked for. He paused as if coming to a realization. That's how he became known as a thief. He stole the treasure of the fire demons. It wasn't an object, it was a person. He kept his eyes on Irie as her eyes started glowing bright white. He stole her. The other boys stared at him. Stole her? He kidnapped her? Why? Kurama never turned to address them. He kept his eyes on her. If I remember properly, fire demons are predominantly male. It is rare for a female to be born, so when they are, their fathers generally secure a mate before the girl is of age by any means necessary to have a greater chance of creating stronger generation. As he paused, Kuwabara looked horrified. Yusuke glanced between Irie and back to Kurama. Females are never to be trained, so they don't put up a fight, but I vaguely remember hearing that one had gone missing. It was believed that she had committed suicide, but the fire demons seemed agitated. They were searching for her. He kept staring at her. A female fire demon's natural ability is supposed to be so powerful it incinerates those who are unworthy. But there has never been a confirmation, at least not in writing. Fire demons are not known for their cooperative nature. Yusuke and Kuwabara looked equally disgusted. So, her father would just allow any number of them to be with her to create stronger fire demons? That's disgusting. Yusuke's voice seemed cold and detached as he added, So, Hiei got her out, but they got separated, and she wound up in Spirit World, where she asked you, he glared at Koenma, for help. You were supposed to protect her, but instead you took her memories, kept her from seeing the person who saved her, then just left her in the human world with some random family to take care of her. She needed help, and you left her with nothing. The family you left her with, they died. She's on her own now. He stalked toward Koenma, pulling him away from the console. Let her out. I'll take her with me. You fear her power, but she never got a chance to learn to control it. Let me take her to Genkai's. Maybe we can teach her. Train her. Teach her control. You denied her the ability to control her power and protect herself. You can at least make up for it now. Hiei watched her calmly. He could hear Kurama's explanation. He could hear the realization that the first stolen treasure was indeed the girl. That didn't matter now. She was here, she was alive, but she was also dangerously out of control. Her energy was consuming her. It burst from her, coating her body in orange and gold flames. Ari turned her face downward as she placed her hands on the sides of her head. There was such an intense pain as the flames died down. She turned suddenly toward him. She's fighting me. He stepped forward. Who? Koenma's version of Irie. She's not ready to accept me. She staggered forward. Hiei caught her and knelt on the ground to hold her still. I'm going to lose my memories. Don't abandon me, she whispered. Her eyes rolled back into her head and she lost consciousness. He scooped her up off the floor and placed her back on the table before going back to the observation room. The silence was deafening. No one knew what to say. She had awoken, shown her power, burned out in a matter of minutes. Kuwabara watched as Hiei placed her back on the table. Who knew the shrimp actually cared about someone? He did save her, and now... Yusuke's voice died in his throat. Hiei had gone back into the observation room, anger on his face. Koenma, let me take her to Genkai's. Hiei made a move toward Koenma, but was blocked by Yusuke. Let me deal with him. He let her suffer. He should suffer the same way. His hand reached for his sword. Yusuke didn't move. I'll go through you if I have to. There's no need for that, Hiei. Genkai may be able to help her. Kurama spoke softly, attempting to calm him down. We'll head there now. She can start working with her as soon as she wakes up. I'm sure getting her far away from Koenma is a good place to start. Yusuke shot Koenma a glare. Koenma glanced between all of them. Fine, but if I get even an inkling that she's a danger, I will bring her back here. Hiei lunged for him again, but this time Kurama stopped him. That is acceptable. Hiei shot a furious glare at Kurama. She'll learn control. There's no reason to take drastic measures. Koenma nodded solemnly and stepped aside. Kuwabara stepped closer to him, shaking his head at him in disbelief. He acted as a barrier between him and the others as Kurama and Yusuke went into the chamber. They lifted her and placed her on Kurama's back and came back into the observation room. I'm still a spirit detective, but I need a break for a bit. Right now I can't do my job knowing what you've done. Yusuke turned away from him and led the way from the room, followed by Kurama with Airi and Hiei beside him. Kuwabara took up the rear. Koenma stared after them and gulped. I hope you know what you're doing, Yusuke. He narrowed his eyes after them as he pressed another button on the console and removed a small orb from the center. I'll have to keep this safe. The boys returned to the human world in silence. Yusuke led the way to Genkai's with anger clearly pasted onto his face. As they climbed the steps to her temple, he sighed. Kurama, I'll take her. Kurama nodded, and they shifted Airi from Kurama's back to Yusuke's. Her body was limp, her breathing ragged, and her energy nearly depleted. Go home, sure you have homework or something. I can come up. I want to see this through just as much as you do. I was wrong about Koenma's intentions. I want to make sure she's taken care of as well. His eyes shone with determination. Yusuke nodded, and they continued their climb. When they reached the top and entered the temple, Genkai met them at the entrance. What do you want now, dimwit? We aren't training until this weekend. She stopped as she saw the unconscious girl. What's all this, then? She's Airi, my friend, Yusuke started. Koenma told us she is a demon. Her power broke through, overwhelmed her, and now she's unconscious. He paused, trying to find the right words. Koenma altered her memory. I think a complication of the alteration is what caused her power to overwhelm her, Kurama added. Yusuke nodded in agreement. I told Koenma I'd bring her here and that she could stay until you could train her to control her energy. If she doesn't learn to control it, Koenma will end up locking her up, altering her memory further, or worse, put her down. Genkai kept her face emotionless as she looked between the boys. Fine. Okay, listen, Grandma, I can't just let her get killed. Wait, did you just agree? Genkai sighed. Yes, I did. Take her to the guest house. She nodded her head at a hallway that led outside. We'll start as soon as she wakes up. Is there anything else? No, just thank you. And that is the end of page 10. Now that we're done with that, any questions? No. So this is something that I started writing probably 15 years ago. As far as how I felt, that gets really complicated, and I don't really want to go into that on stream. I know, I believe Commander and Matt were there for that roundtable back in June. So I started writing this right after what I talked about at that point in time. So it was more like a coping mechanism. Yeah, so that's when I first started writing this, was like 2-3 weeks after that. You kind of get that with some of the whole helpless and powerless vibes that you're getting. Yeah.